Welcome to Behavioral Grooves, the show where we talk about behavioral science in a very fun way that talks about things that matter to you, like how do you gather for holidays and what are the rituals that you have. So join me, Kurt Nelson, along with my co-host, Tim Houlihan, as we do a very special grooving session for you on gatherings and rituals.
I'm glad you didn't go to how to survive, Thanksgiving, or how to not kill Uncle Joe at Christmas.
We
Crazy
already
Uncle
did that
Joe.
one, didn't we? Didn't we do
We've
that
done
one?
that,
Like,
but
yeah.
it never gets old because Crazy Uncle Joe every year. So
And it's always uncles. It's never crazy aunts. It's always the crazy uncles,
it
isn't
is,
it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how do you want to frame this grooving
So
session?
so we are entering into holiday season for Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving for those who do that, right? Christmas, Hanukkah, end of year celebrations. We just passed Halloween, one of my favorite celebrations of the year, and there's an aspect of these where we gather together and that we have rituals with that and that they're important, and wanted to just dig into understanding why, from a psychological perspective, why are gatherings so important for us? Why are rituals that we have in these, and what that does for us, right?
It's also worth noting that because these are kind of momentous in a way, we put a lot of time and effort into planning them. We often
Yeah.
travel to get to them.
Travel long distances, right? I mean, it's not just like hopping in and driving 5 minutes down the road. We get book airline flights and travel home for Christmas and or Thanksgiving. Well, maybe not now because
The federal
airlines.
government's cutting 10% of the flights between right now. So that might be safer to drive.
Might be safer to drive. Maybe you have to take an extra day or two because you're going to be driving for 18 hours. But that we spend a lot of time in place importance
Yeah,
on
yeah.
getting together. And why do we do that? Why do we have this need to gather?
Well, there's many reasons, right? But the first one is that like we are wired for connection. We are wired like these are getting together fulfills deep psychological drives for belonging and identity and shared meaning. And as a species, we have succeeded both by competition and collaboration. But the big win, the big winner for humans is collaboration. Like we need each other. We need to sit down and be able to trust each other across the table, and that's a really important thing.
Right, and I think there's an interesting aspect of that. And in the US, we have a very individualistic kind of societal meme out there where, oh, we're strong individual people, and it's the cowboy out on the Western Front who's all alone on his horse and with the cattle. And I always like to say, yeah, but every night, what did that cowboy do? Came back to the campfire with his group of other cowboys, right? And they sang songs and ate beans and did silly things, right? So,
Farted. They farted. Let's just say it. Yes.
well, when they ate beans, they did,
Yes.
but we are wired. We are very much wired for connection, for having those social connections. We are social creatures at the heart of it. And as such, gatherings are important. And so, particularly familiar, family, friends, those types of gatherings, which re solidify that sense of community and connection.
Yeah, I love in these situations, psychologists can bring a lot to the table, but even more so an anthropologist can. And Demetrius Zagalatos at University of Connecticut, his work is about how participating in rituals, in this collective ritual, whether they're religious or culture or even sporting events, it synchronizes our behavior and our physiology. Heart rates literally align. And again, this can happen as frequently at a concert as it could at a church service.
Yeah.
Maybe it could happen at
At
the
a dinner
Thanksgiving table.
table, at like watching a movie together, right? There are things that we do, and I think it's really important. And I think there's social identity theory. Who is that? It was Tjafel and Turner, right? I think I,
Yeah,
I probably mispronounced
Tashful
their names.
and Tashful and Turner. That was like
Yeah,
from the 1970s. That goes way back. Yeah.
yeah, and it's this idea that shared experiences basically reinforce who we are as a group. These these gatherings are important because they're these shared experiences that we look back on with our memory, and that is, it's really important. And I think, Tim, an important piece, and you brought this up as we were talking pre about this, is that it's not just about one group; it's about multiple groups, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned it, Kurt, because it doesn't mean that all of our identity comes from one group. And today, when we have like, just I don't want to get political, but just so much of our identity in the past few years has been authorized and overseen by political motives and political groupishness. We've got a lot more groups out there that we could explore and exploit to help us identify who we are. Like, what about the
Yeah,
rock climbing group and the hiking group and the hang gliding group and the
and
karate
and
group and the yoga group and like the
and my
Thanksgiving group?
and the Thanksgiving, the Friendsgiving group, my friends, the group that gets together on New Year's, the sport fan group. We're watching, the Thanksgiving Day football game, and I am associated with the Detroit Lions or the Packers or whoever, the Dallas Cowboys, who always play on Thanksgiving. And I think there's a really important part that you're talking about there, that we are more than just one group. And
Yeah.
those groups, intermix, and they cross pollinate, and they have people from different political things, and that different, rock climbing and various different elements. And so you're who you are is based upon a number of the groups that your social identity should be a composite of multitudes of groups. And I think that's really thing. And one
You,
last thing. Oh, go ahead.
well, no, you got one other thing that you want to say about that? Go ahead.
No, I was gonna switch over to like making sure our gatherings that we're not aiming for perfection, um, or actually necessarily following tradition, but it's the intent. It is really important to know that we're getting together because we want to have this connection with others. And so, all right, maybe the turkey gets burnt. Maybe the stuffing isn't as great as it could be. Maybe, Uncle Joe gets really drunk and crazy in different pieces. But, the intent is for us to get together as family or friends or whatever the group is. And that is really important.
Yeah. So we have been talking about ritual, but I don't think that we've defined it well. Kirk, can you help us give a better a clearer definition when we're talking about a ritual and why that's different from anything else?
So I will go back to our episode with Mike Norton, episode 410, back from April of 2024. And if you haven't listened to it, fantastic episode. Mike is brilliant. He's studied rituals for many, many years now. And the way that he talks about it is that rituals are intentional, repeated actions. But here's the important part: they're imbued with meaning. In other words, it's not just a routine that we do. And he talks about it in a really interesting way when we had him on. He talked about this routine or a ritual of where a husband is making coffee for his spouse and brings that coffee to that person in bed every morning. And for him, it's this ritual where he focuses in on making the perfect cup of coffee, and that it has a meaning, that he's doing this for a purpose, and that it's imbued with this element of care and different things. And his wife may or may not like feel it's a ritual. It could be like,
Right.
oh,
It's just
hey,
like
okay, thank you, right? Or it could be thank you, honey, right? And so ritual, it has that element of routine, but it is symbolic. It has an emotional component that resonates with us, and it's often social.
yeah, yeah. So thank you, because I think that that helps sort of remind us the difference. The key difference, I just want to highlight this, between like a habit and a ritual is this imbued with meaning thing, right? This is
Yeah.
the part that you're focusing on. Um, the idea of the ritual then has the opportunity to enhance our enjoyment,
Yeah.
right? It could actually elevate that habit or that experience because it's a ritual. It could sometimes the ritual can reduce anxiety,
Yes.
sometimes, right? And provide some kind of structure, especially in uncertain situations. Like humans have used rituals for millennia to help us navigate our way through life. I think marriage, the act of marriage is a ritual. The act of a death or
Yeah, the ring, the giving of rings, the way the words that are spoken, the very different things. There's a lot. And again, thinking about gatherings in this holiday season, right? Is do you have like a pre-meal toast or a family grace that you do all the time,
yeah.
right? Is there something that is embedded with kind of meaning? Or do you, I mean, a ritual could even be you watch the same holiday movie every year, it's the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer or It's a Wonderful Life, or
What
do
about the Westminster Kennel Club?
or yes, exactly. Like, okay, we're gonna watch that, or we're gonna
Yeah.
watch the Packer Detroit Lions game, and it's part of this. It's something that you look forward to. It's an aspect that brings you together, right? There are all sorts of ways to create or have these rituals, and that's the other interesting piece is we can create new rituals. We don't have to be hemmed in by tradition, and it's really a key thing there. So,
Here's a ritual that I would advocate not starting, and that would be asking people to pay for their portion of the meal.
oh, damn
Just,
it. You mean I have to pay for a whole damn turkey and
just
all the yeah, well, no, but okay, so that's an interesting thing, and it's always interesting. Again, different families have different traditions around this,
yes,
but
yes, they
like
do.
it's like okay, somebody bakes the turkey, but somebody else brings the green bean
Stuffing. Yep.
casserole, and
Yep.
somebody else does the bread and the pies or whatever it is, right? Um, I think it's important though because again, rituals are a key piece of this. And again, rituals are not routines. They're embedded with this, meaning,
Meaning.
but they act as emotional anchors, right? They are these things that when we think about a Thanksgiving or a Christmas or New Year's or even a Halloween, that we anchor to, right? They transform an ordinary act like eating
Well, you gave the
in
coffee example as a great one.
yeah, into something that takes on a bigger meaningful aspect of our lives,
Yeah,
right?
so we get this windfall also from a psychological perspective that when we're doing the ritual, we actually get a sense of control. Right,
Yeah,
because there's a certain amount of certainty that we get with the ritual because we anticipate and expect certain things are going to happen. Even if that's we're expecting crazy Uncle Joe to get drunk and get crazy. Like that is actually to some degree reduces anxiety because we're sort of counting on it. And the ritual can also heighten our attention and anticipation by focusing our mind on what's happening now. Like
in the
all,
moment, being present in the moment, right? And savoring that. I think that's the other piece,
yeah.
savoring those experiences, savoring that moment of being with your family and doing your meal grace or the uh, opening that your pajamas the night before Christmas. That's the gift that we always got before on Christmas Eve was pajamas. It's silly, but there's something that gets embedded in our soul with that, and it's very meaningful to us, and so I think that's really important. Yeah,
Well, I'm going to go back to Zagalatas again here because his work is really great at demonstrating how these rituals strengthen our connection and cooperation. They create cohesion through this shared intentionality, through this shared meaning. We all come to the table with this meaning, and that ends up having a really positive effect on the group.
yeah, yeah. How it makes life meaningful, right? So
Yes,
there you go.
yes.
All right. There is one piece I want to just dig into because there is an aspect, and I think we talked about this. Well, again, it's when rituals lose meaning, right? When they become an automatic pilot. Again, that
Oh, yeah.
coffee example of okay, I'm embedding my emotion and my care into this, but somebody else isn't. And again, I you can see this at the Thanksgiving table where all right, everybody says what they're grateful for before you go for dinner. And everything just becomes, oh, my family, oh, my friends, my family, my friends, everybody. It's like you didn't put thought or care into it. And so it just becomes a routine,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have that same meaning. It doesn't embed us with this emotional like connection that I think is so important for that.
Yeah, we can imbue. That's a great way of thinking about it. Actually, we can imbue ourselves and just think about those situations with some reflection, with a little bit of self reflection and a little bit of self awareness, and paying attention and being curious. And have I said I'm grateful for my friends and family at the last 17 of Thanksgivings? Maybe there is something more, or maybe I could just get more specific. Maybe I could just
Yes.
actually add something. And we get tired of this stuff in part because of hedonic adaptation, right?
Yes.
That even meaningful experiences can become dull over time unless we refresh them. And it's good to have somebody in your group, whether it's family or friends, whoever you get together with to create this momentous gathering, who is kind of a wildcat and says, let's do something different, or I want to try something different. Invite that person to take the floor and give them a voice. Let them do something different.
And if you don't have that person, maybe it
You
needs to
could
be
be
you,
that person. Yeah.
or just pose to the group. Like, when was the last time? This is a question for every listener out there. When
Okay.
was the last time that you thought about what you do and what your family's rituals are and the way that you do them?
So
When
yes.
was the last time that you thought about the rituals that your family has or your friend group has?
In other words, have
And
you been living the status quo for so long that you don't even remember the last time you thought about why you're doing what you're doing?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
We'll pause to let you think about that.
Well, and so all right, so let's give some practical tips
Okay. All
on
right.
thinking about this. So, pause for meaning, right? So I tell people this, like my wife and I, when we got married, we took a moment when everybody was there and it was in the middle of the reception, and we just went off by ourselves, and we looked out at that crowd and we paused and we said, soak this in, soak this moment in, because these people are here for us. And it was really, an emotional component. And I think we don't do that enough, even at our family gatherings. And so at Thanksgiving, at Christmas, at New Year's, at Halloween, whatever it is, pause and just notice, just pay attention to the people that are there, that the conversations that are going on, be that silent observer and make that moment have some meaning, and make it a memory that you take in and that you can keep with you for a while.
Be intentional. Just
Add intention, right? Yeah.
just just get into an intentional space in your head and then just think about small tweaks, a moment of gratitude, a group toast, whatever. How can you deepen your connection with just a tiny little tweak? And you have to be paying attention to see those moments, but to bring that intentionality to your event, to your experience, adds value to how you experience, and it could add value to how others experience it as well.
Again, that what you're grateful for before Thanksgiving, take a moment and think about it before Thanksgiving happens,
That's
and
right.
don't show up with my friends and family.
Oh shit,
And
I
and
forgot about
be
that. Yeah.
and be take a moment to really think about that and to say this is, or it might be friends and family, but get more specific with it. Get more concrete in how you talk about it and why that's important to you and what it meant this past year and all of those factors that go into that. And it's not easy, but man, it can be really powerful when you do that.
Can I just say, on that topic, this idea of these moments of gratitude being specific and different? I have two brothers who are absolutely fantastic at being in the moment and going, "This is what's important to me right now." And they remind me all the time about how great it is to have them as brothers, because they do that. Like, they'll sit down and express gratitude about, this is important right now. This is what I'm focused on right now. And this intentionality is a really wonderful thing. So I'm lucky. I'm really,
Yeah.
grateful to have that around. Okay. What else? I'm sorry.
I think there's another piece, which is we have these traditions. And as we talked about, sometimes those traditions just fall into a routine that don't carry that ritualistic meaning anymore.
Hmm.
And too often, I think we just, well, let's just get rid of it and we'll do something new. And it doesn't have to be that way. It can be an evolution as opposed to uh, deletion. And so you can take that gratitude moment and maybe twist it a little bit, maybe just tweak it somehow, where it's like call out one person at this table and something they did for you this year that you're grateful for. It All right, that's different. It's a little bit of tweak. It's an evolution of that. And it may not be that, it could be something else. It could be, all right, we're going to watch the football game, but in between each we're going to, do a little bet on, something. Make it something new, add a layer to it. Don't just let it sit and stagnate.
Make some money on it. Is that your
Is that
point?
that well, that's
Is that your
where
point?
I
Just
was
like,
going, because I'm like
okay,
thinking, oh yeah, if we're, not everybody's as
yeah,
in tune with
no.
football.
How
But
about this? How about evolution, not dissolution? How about that? Okay.
I like it. I like it.
Connect us. Use these gatherings to get connected, because these rituals can have meaning. They do have meaning, which is sometimes why we stress about them, because they mean so much. But if we bring intentionality, if we bring the right intentions to these things, we can create a sense of belonging that we didn't have before.
Create
That
more memories, create more belonging, create more emotional connection. It's there. All right, so I'm going to leave our listeners with this
oh,
question,
okay.
a
Great.
group question for them. What is one ritual that you have, big ritual, small ritual, that gives your gatherings meaning? Think about that, and then think about what you can do with that. So, all right, shall we wrap up there?
Sounds good.
That would be good. Yeah. All right.
Yes.
So should we end with our ritualistic close?
Sure. Let's see how that works. Okay. Yes.
All right. So it's your turn to
Oh,
do the ritualistic close.
I was thinking I was going to put you on the spot. All right. Let's see. We hope that you can take some of these insights from gathering and rituals from this episode that we talked about and take them into the holiday season, to whatever events you're going to, and use them to help you find your groove.